It's that time again, and it's Primarch talk time. I get to learn about a new Primarch to me. I mean, it's an old Primarch. There's only, there are two left that would be new. Is that right?
Maybe.
Because weren't there 20?
There were 20.
And there's a couple that are unaccounted for.
True.
But it's just two that are unaccounted for.
I don't know, is it?
Unless it's one of those situations where there's like twins on one of them, right?
Maybe.
I'm Shane, that's Casey. He's being obtuse.
I am Alfarius.
We are 40K Fanatics podcast, where we talk about all things Warhammer and some just general miniature gaming
Stuff
hobby
that Jimmy's our jams.
stuff. That's the thing we do. My mic stands on its last leg, and it is not cooperating with me quite properly. So if you guys hear some thumps and whatnot,
we'll
that
get a
is
new
me
one eventually
sorting this out. Casey, tell the people the format of the show if they're new to 40K Fanatics.
First up, what we do is we like to open up that bits box for you, ladies and gentlemen out there.
What the heck is a bits box?
A bits box is when we open up our box, pull out all the bits to talk about what we've been doing this week in the hobby.
Well, we should go ahead and get started on that then.
Shane, open up that bits box.
I'm not the sound effects engine. You open it up. See, I could not have done that. I could not have mustered such a fine sound effect. This week in the hobby, I have gotten so I got a couple of things to say about this. So,
and he's done.
I started painting my Chaos Lord in Terminator armor.
Ooh boy,
okay.
Iron Within.
Yeah, and so what I've decided to do on these unnamed characters, especially like Chaos Lords of various types,
the vague characters,
the very vague ones, and the ones that nobody, in fact, the ones that a lot of CSM players are taking multiples of. I don't really like taking multiples of anything because I feel like it's kind of cheesy.
It's kind of cheap.
There's so many things, especially as
it's
a
not
CSM
unique,
player.
right?
That's right. There's so many things that you can choose from as a CSM player. You can just have so much stuff. Anyway, so I got the Chaos Lord and Terminator armor, and I got him built up, and I was looking at what weapon to give him, because I already take Abaddon all the time, and he walks around with his 5 Terminators. Now he can join Chosen, which is another option that I've got. Used to, I ran him with Legionaries too, but he can't even join them anymore, which I think is strange.
He lost his marks.
Yeah, but he's still awesome, which I'll get to.
Still pretty cool.
But I thought, well, Abaddon just chops everything to bits. What weapon am I going to give this Chaos Lord? And I was looking at the weapons and the various ones that come in the kit, and he's got a lot of options, and he's got this big old chain fist.
Love a chain fist.
And I thought, okay. At first I was going to make him an Alpha Legion guy.
Really?
Yeah, and I thought...
That's right, you said that last week.
Yeah, and I thought, well, none of these are sneaky. But this chain fist is cool. And he's got...
fair, can a Terminator sneak?
Exactly.
So there you go.
See? It was a bad concept from the jump. But once I said, I'm going to give him this chain fist, then normally I'm anti-helmet all the time. No helmets, just faces. And then I was like...
The Chaos Terminator helmet?
Yeah, but what if he's got this horned helmet and make him look like a monster? And then I said, he's going to be an Iron Warrior.
There you go.
And I got...
one of my favorite ones, too.
I got the new Army Painter Fanatic Metallic set. And they are chef's kiss. They go
How's
on...
the gold?
Which one? The set comes with 3 golds, couple of coppers, like 4 different silvers, and then some weird ones that are sort of rust and pink and different colors, right? And they go on so smooth, they flow right off the brush. They don't seem to do that thing that I've been having an issue with where there's almost a grain to them.
Yeah.
Like they shine from every angle. And for that guy, which you can see him on our X/Twitter page for our Whip Wednesday, it was posted the other day. I'm
just now noticing you changed the rock.
Yo, yeah, and those are a couple of choice rocks from the great outdoors, because I didn't want to have cloned rocks, because I also have the Chaos Sorcerer and Terminator armor, which is made from the same kit, and he's sitting on the tactical rock that he comes with, and I didn't want that rock to be cloned, so I chucked it over the shoulder and went out and got some old-fashioned, good-looking rocks.
Went old school with it.
That's right. But I think he's going to look great, and I'm also going to rust him up a little bit in places with use that little bit of dirty down.
For an iron, that's awesome for an Iron Warrior, man.
Yeah, he's going to look like he just is absolutely banging into. Well, he's going to be looking like he does exactly what he's going to do, which is run that chain fist into the side of a tank until
he's a bruiser,
until the stuff inside spills out.
There you go.
I think he's going to be fun. And then the other thing that I want to talk about this is I posted that picture that I was working on this Iron Warrior, Chaos Lord, and Terminator armor in the local group. And somebody's like, man, you run the Chaos Lord and Terminator armor? He seems like he's kind of highly costed for what he does. And I said, you don't understand how this works in my house.
Yeah.
I run every dang thing.
Anything that looks cool, real cool, baby.
Anything that's cool. Like, I don't care if the dude's 5 points too much or 15 or 20. Sometimes I'm going to be like, all right, my Iron Warrior dude is going to go out with these Terminators. I'm going to take an extra couple of Demon Ninjas or something, and we're going to call that like his little tank squad that he's going to run out there with, right? And that's going to be the list. And will it be good? Probably not. But I don't care, because you know what it's going to be? Really stinking.
He's going to be
cool.
The true son of Horus and just spear tip right into the battle.
Just the tip.
Anything else?
Oh, yeah, I've got more stuff, but go ahead and let's have a piece of your bits box.
Okay, my bits box. I've been working on a few commissions lately, as well as a few other things. Your boy ended up with a few things off an old commission. Cave and Shrike, a few Reavers, and I have been not only painting them up in the Raven Guard style, but I'm also stripping down my old flesh tearers. You know, it's time. It's been a couple years. I don't really use them anymore. They're going out to pasture. You know,
the flesh tearer thing was never going to happen.
Man, if they update Gabriel Seth in like a week or two, I'm going to lose it. I will throw a chair. I'm going to hit somebody.
What'd you have though? 400 points?
Man, it used to be 1,000. Now it's like, gosh, maybe 600, 700, something like that. Gosh. But yeah, now I'm working on a Raven Guard army. It's pretty cool. And I'm working on a few commissions for Alpha Legion player in our local community, a guy who plays both the Horus Heresy and 40K. He's having me paint several HQ units. You should see them on our X, Primaris Lieutenant, all black, Horus Heresy style.
And this is another battle ready situation, isn't it?
Yes, battle ready or battle ready plus. You know?
Yeah.
Which is what I do. You know, it's just put the base coats on and maybe some shades and a couple of highlights, and that's battle ready, that's battle ready plus for me. So
I like it.
Yeah,
I like it.
I like it. They look nice. You saw them right before we walked in here.
I did some terrain this week. I felt like doing something that I didn't have to think about.
Something simple.
Yeah, and so I went and grabbed the couple of ruin pieces that come with the bolt action Band of Brothers starter set, and it's like some old European cottages that have been just blown to smithereens, you know, a la World War II Battle of the Bulge type stuff. And I took them outside, rattle canned them black, did a little white rattle can, brought them back in. Put some like burgundy, some brick color really on my dry palette, and proceeded to just dry brush them all over the place. And then that was a good start. I took some cream color and did the same thing on all the parts that were not going to be so bricky. And then took some yellow. And I put yellow on all the parts where the sort of stucco is not damaged, and so they're like kind of grimy looking yellow bombed out houses, and I think they turned out cute, and it didn't take very long, and it was kind of fun just to play. What
palette cleanser would you say?
What I think about terrain painting, especially like realistic sort of terrain painting, a lot of times if you're doing like big grimdark stuff,
right?
You know, there's so much of a Like there's almost like a cathedral thing going on. So it kind of has to look a certain way. But like real buildings, it's just playing in the mud.
And the beauty of 40K is there's so many different random environments that you could end up seeing. But as far as their tabletop terrain set kind of goes, you're right. It just kind of sticks to that Gothic cathedral style. Which, there's nothing wrong with that. But, if you want something more like what you're talking about?
Yeah, and look, I like that a whole lot better than this.
Stick a servo skull in that 1950s era door,
Yeah, or just drop it down, because somewhere there's got to be people living in regular old houses.
Exactly.
And where there's only war, the war must come to them too.
Exactly.
But I tell you, I like that sort of stuff. The Gothic cathedral ruin terrain set a whole lot better than I do all this MDF. Printed or not printed.
That,
I get so tired of that. It just looks like
the pre-cut out stuff. Yeah.
You remember the Judge Dredd Carla Urban movie?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody liked that one a lot because it was closer to the comics. But man, they'd show those wide shots of the city, and you'd see these hab blocks, and they're just block. It's like that a little bit, I feel like. And
samey.
Yeah, it's very same. I played another one of my league matches. This one was at the Nathan Summer Invitational at his house, and he painstakingly set up one of the official, quote unquote, official GW terrain layouts with the appropriate sized little lycra or what are they like plexiglass bases and everything, and it was super crowded. And I mean, I guess it's fine. It's my opinion that the more things that are solved for in the game, the more negative effect that has overall.
Interesting.
I wish that you could rock up to a tournament, and over on one table there could be a bunch of pretty old school ruins, and on another table there could be DVD cases, books, and soda cans.
Floorhammer style.
Yeah. And you don't know what table you're going to play on. Now, obviously, this would cause some wild swings in effectiveness of people's armies, right? But I think that would be better. I think that would be cool, because it's going to cut both ways. Sometimes you're going to be out of luck. It'll be way too crowded for you to shoot, and your whole deal will be messed up. Sometimes you're going to catch the one that's got like a trench down the middle.
There you go.
And you're going to win. And I think that is way more fun than doing this trigonometry to set up these terrain sets.
I will tell you of a great scenario when I first started playing. This was back in the good old days when they had the blast tiles. And some dude let loose with some heavy artillery over near some orc boys that were hiding next to like a soda can grain silo. And that thing whiffed and hit the boys, but let me tell you, it hit that silo, and he just crushed that soda can straight down.
That's great.
That's awesome.
I mean,
because that's the only stuff you can do when you're hanging out with friends,
I think the other thing too is there are woods, there are trenches, there are pipes, there are craters, and all we do is roll up with little tiny bunches of ruins. And it needs to stop. I'll go ahead and step off my soapbox, which I may use as a central ruin once I'm done.
There you go. Okay. That's it for my bits box. Pretty much just working on commissions. I've been pretty busy with a lot of other stuff, but that's it.
Close it. Let's get right into the main topic. We'll see if this makes it a whole 40 minutes, but it might. You've got a Primarch to teach me about, because I don't know anything about anything.
Boy, oh boy. We're talking about the fancy lad, the pretty boy of the Primarchs.
Sanguinius?
No. We're actually talking about Mr. Silverhair himself, Mr. Fulgrim.
Fulgrim. So there are two pretty Primarchs.
Yes. And I've thought about this quite often too, so I'm happy you brought this up. Because everyone looks at Sanguinius thinking, man, he looks good. He's got that jawline. He's got those long flowing hair. He looks like an angel. They never talk about how pretty he is. It's always Fulgrim that's the pretty one. But come on, guys. Sanguinius, you're not looking over there and thinking, look at that snack. Come on.
So what's Fulgrim's whole deal?
Fulgrim's life starts humble. He's kind of, if I had to describe it to you in a way that you would understand.
And you do.
Think Elvis Presley, Katy Perry, and just about Motley Crue. You know, guys who had humble beginnings, but then when they got everything, they got a little too used to it, went a little too hard, and just redlined it. And then they paid the price.
So where did he come from?
So, as you know, back in the day, all the Primarchs got scattered and yeeted out into the universe, right?
And Big E went searching for them.
Exactly. Well, after the Age of Strife, when all those warp tomfoolery storms happened all over the place and everybody was cut off, there was a little mining world called Chemos. Chemos was, think of that ghost town in the Old West that, it got all the diamonds out, but now there's really nothing else and everybody's shuffling off. But, everybody who lives on that planet can't really do that because it's a planet. They get cut off from everybody. The well dries up. No resources to be had. And the planet is actually in perpetual twilight nonstop. One day, they look around and they say, oh, dang, we don't have any snacks. Fortunately, Chemos is one of those planets that, like Terra, heavily relied on resources from other worlds to survive. And so they couldn't make them their own. Everyone turned to the guys who worked on the factories, worked in the mines, were on all that heavy equipment and stuff. And so they started turning all these factories, mining equipment and things, into, food factories, just resource factories. Let's make food, let's make clothes. And they had to basically work from the time they woke up to the time they went to sleep for a couple hours. They were nonstop working. That was your day on Chemos because it wasn't to get food, man. This is worldwide. There is no option other than work because if you don't work, no food gets made. You will starve.
Crazy.
Yeah, the world will starve. Everyone was just, there were no rebellions, nothing like that. It was just a bleak, hard existence on Chemos. And then one day, some pod crashes down, and the local security people, they're like a militia, more like security guards, police task force, go in and they find this pod, and it's Fulgrim as a baby. Well, they take him to the bosses, the guys in charge, the executives, and they say, hey, we've got this special baby. Can we keep him? Because apparently on Chemos, life is so bleak, so hard, resources are so scarce, any orphan is immediately executed. Because they can't spare to take care of extra children, man.
Dang.
Yeah. And after begging and pleading with these executives, the executives decide to let one of the leadership of the security force take Fulgrim in and then raise him up as his own. He eventually became a full-fledged worker doing as much as an adult by the time he was 6. And using his acquired knowledge and understanding of things, his intuition that he just naturally had because he was a Primarch. He picked things up quick, mastered every piece of factory technology they had, and learned how to make them run even more efficiently. He started, at the age of 15, he became an executive and a leadership role for the planet. And after some adjustments and changes, his planet actually started producing a surplus. So they had downtime. And what do you do with downtime? Well, you make culture. You sing. You do art. Do stuff like that. And Fulgrim loved it because finally, somewhere on this bleak planet was a shining example of culture and magnificence. Something to look forward to. He started spreading out his influence. He was actually one of the only Primarchs who ever got married. Yeah, right? Weird. Anyways, he started the mines back up again, and after trading with some, what do you call them? They're not rogue traders, but they're the equivalent of what would have been a rogue trader back then.
Like pirates and
basically
mercenaries.
Yeah, guys from other planets, guys who, had it out for themselves, stuff like that.
Guys that the Imperium are going to execute with prejudice.
Exactly. Privateers. They traded with them. And then eventually, Chemos had an abundance of wealth, jewels, filigree, art, wine, things like that. They were back, baby. They're the top.
They wore their fancy pants.
Exactly. And then one day, a little guy, just a noble dude, just heard about this, and he had to go visit because he just had an inkling about some rumor about this place. Maybe there was somebody he had to visit. That man was the Emperor of Mankind.
In one of his more demure forms.
Yeah, well, actually, he showed up normal. Usually, he hides himself, or like with Sanguinius, he hid in the crowd watching.
No, he showed up 10 feet tall and
basically
glorious to Fulgrim.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, his armored dudes just came off the ship. They saw that Aquila on the ships, and they were like, "Whoa, these dudes are serious, and we don't have an army. We just have cops." So Fulgrim says, just treat with them well, be nice to them, and let them into my palace. Big E eventually rocks up, and Fulgrim immediately just drops the floor and just says, "I will do whatever you want, Dad." He just loses it. Like some people say he cried. He just said, "Oh my gosh, nobody this perfect could not be my dad." Double negative, I know, but come on. So he grabs his son and he says, "Look, I got some Space Marines for you. I got some Space Marines for you, Morty. Here's some Space Marines. You like Space Marines? I got you some Space Marines." No, this is Fulgrim. So there was a little bit of a problem with that. You see, where most legions, their Primarchs, when they were introduced to the Legion, they had thousands of Space Marines. In some cases, hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands, mostly. Fulgrim looked out and he only saw about a mere 600 Space Marines.
Now, Fulgrim at this stage has got no military anything, right?
Yeah, and that's actually a keen observation. I hadn't actually thought about that.
Like, I mean, most all of these dudes were the sort of de facto warlords of their various planets, but he is more like
he was just a boss, a politician,
the CFO of the corporation.
Exactly.
And then Big E's like, "Okay, you're going to run this war band now."
Oh my gosh. Why do I think of him dressed like President Loki now because of you? Oh gosh. Yeah.
So he goes along with this though. He's like, "Okay, yeah, this is what I do now. See you guys later."
Yeah, well, the problem was the Legion, the Third Legion, which was what he was in charge of, had suffered a big deal. Apparently, while the gene seed in the early days was being transported from Earth to the moon for some reason, Xenos, and I know you guys can't see it, but I'm doing air quotes. Xenos influence led to a corruption in the gene seed.
So who was the Third Legion? I guess we're talking about like Third Legion Heresy Edition, right?
Yes.
Or no, not. I guess it wouldn't be Heresy Edition. Yeah. So who were? What would be Fulgrim's guys?
They would be known eventually as the Emperor's Children. I'd have to.
Okay, right. So they're the Emperor's Children. Are the Emperor's Children once they fall to chaos or before?
Before.
Okay, so they're Emperor's Children from then, and then they stay that way.
And I'm about to tell you their namesake.
All right.
So, because of this, Fulgrim wondered, why are there so little of them? Asked the Emperor what happened. He told him the story that the gene seed was corrupted due to, again, Xenos influence. Whereas these boys would grow tumors after a short time, and even if they did make it to be a Space Marine, and their body didn't reject it, they'd grow tumors and eventually die a slow death.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, he was so moved by this, he stepped out in front of his own legion, his men. He looked out upon them with their shining armor, and he was so proud that he gave the best speech that was, or ever will be to date in the Imperium. And the Emperor was so moved, he decided that the only legion that could bear the Imperial Aquila upon their armor were these sons of his and Fulgrim's, the Emperor's Children. And that from that day on, they would be known as so.
So
the Emperor named them.
It wasn't actually Xenos influence that corrupted the gene seed of the Emperor's Children.
How did you know? I was so subtle.
Right. You were very subtle. I'm sure the listeners keyed in on that. So is this Fabius Bile's doing?
No,
at that stage?
No, but Fabius Bile does actually have the genetic defect I told you about.
Okay.
He actually clones himself to get around it because every time his body just comes back, it just dies again from all those tumors.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So Fulgrim took full charge of his boys, goes to Terra to learn a few things, right? Teaches his boys a few things, fights alongside them, and he goes there to the forges to learn, how technology works, how he can work with the Imperium and personify this perfect example of civilization that the Emperor wants for him and for all of humanity to reunite amongst the stars. And he meets his brother, Ferrus Manus, Primarch of the Iron Hands. And he says, I'm about to make the best weapon ever made. And Ferrus literally laughed in his face and said, those pasty hands of yours can't do nothing. And he almost verbatim said that. He literally called his hands pasty. Because Fulgrim is blunt. He is hard-headed. He's the personification of survival of the fittest. He's a man. He's a man.
Or you mean the Iron
Yes.
Fist,
the Iron
Imperial Fist guy?
No. Well, kind of. That's Rogel Dorn.
Oh,
I'm talking about the Iron Hands Primarch Ferrus Manus.
Right. Not Fulgrim.
So they decide, well, let's throw down. Gauntlet has been dropped, and they say, let's do a competition. Who makes the best weapon? Go. They then spend the next 3 months non-stop forging in the forges, making the best weapon that they can possibly make. Ferrus Manus makes a flaming sword of elegant light that is said to cut through just about anything. Fulgrim makes a grand hammer called Forge Breaker that is said to be so powerful one hit could level a mountain.
Wow.
And it's kind of like they're reversed, you see?
Yeah.
Fulgrim, the elegant, the guy who's shining and golden, he made a mace.
Thumper.
Yeah. But Fulgrim, the guy who's blunt and
or Ferrus.
Yeah, Ferrus, the one who's blunt and brutal and Spartan style. He made a weapon of, beauty. So
is that the sword that Bobby G carries?
No, that is actually the Emperor's sword.
Okay.
So they both concede and are best buds for the rest of their lives. They swap each other's weapons as gifts and say the other is the winner. And they're best bros.
And they both have appropriate weapons for their styling.
Yeah, exactly. Like your chain fist that you were talking about.
Yeah, my Iron Warrior dude's chain fist.
Exactly. So they said that no two Primarchs were more friends than these two. Fulgrim eventually hooks up with Horus because he's only got a couple hundred Space Marines, and he can only give so much gene seed. Horus shows him the ways of battle. They fight together, Horus being, in charge. And they grow very close after this, helping out in Rubute Gilliman's neck of the woods over in the Ultima Segmentum. After he's gotten the ropes and a couple decades have passed, the Emperor's children's ranks have swelled. They've grown to a proper size, and they start to go out on their own. Go do their own thing. They've earned it. It was then that the Emperor's children, Fulgrim, started building up a reputation for seeking perfection in all things. Artistry, elegance, perfection in combat and in life. The Legion often boasted the best duelists out of all of the legions. Every time they walked off their ships, they would parade marching in their gold filigreed armor with purple colors, opalescent like panels, while musicians of all kinds from around the Imperium would just play beautiful music. They even had orchestra halls on their ships for musicians and artists. And fine pictures and paintings decorated the walls. Fulgrim even had beautiful Xenos songbirds in his private quarters.
Heresy.
I know. Well, striving for perfection can be a very what is it? Perfection is the enemy of good?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It could be a fleeting battle.
Quite literally in this case.
Exactly. Because they had to make every battle count. They only had the smallest legion.
Mm-hmm.
And if they failed or didn't do as well as they wanted, some of them even killed themselves.
So
critical.
Somewhere, I imagine there is a Slaneshi influence that begins to corrupt.
They come across a planet ruled by a species called the Laern, a Xenos species that is secretly a Slaneshi cult worshipping society. They augment themselves genetically and cybernetically to reach utter perfection. Fulgrim goes down there, and he actually didn't have to. Some scholars thought that they could subjugate them and live with them. But again, nobody knew about chaos. Fulgrim's like, look, if they don't love the Emperor and all that he stands for, they ain't gonna live. A couple months later, they are wiped out. Fulgrim and the Emperor's children take him down. He goes into the central city, their capital city, the holiest of holies, and finally Fulgrim slays the last Laern. And he starts to notice something calling him towards the central altar. He walks through the door, and in the center of this altar is a large, round, black stone piece of stone with a blade sticking out of the top. A beautiful, slightly curved blade with an amethyst rune. It was then that he took it, for he did not know that a greater demon of Slaanesh was in the blade. So he leaves, not knowing this, and all the while, this Slaaneshi demon is talking to him. It's talking to him, and he thinks, oh, it's just my subconscious messing with me. Eventually keeps driving him towards more acts of I need more, more beauty. More music.
More excess.
Exactly. Eventually, his little buddy comments between him and Ferris, he starts taking them too serious. It's like, you're calling me a jerk? Are you serious? Really? We're best buds. And then eventually somebody turns to chaos, and I think we all know what happens there. Mr. Horus comes a knocking. Fulgrim, at this point, he doesn't know fully that Horus is corrupted, and he just kind of this is weird. And this is the point where, wow, there's a lot of red flags. An Eldar Farser even warns him that Horus is turned. And Horus had to use every last ounce of his Primarch charisma power to turn Fulgrim to his side. Said, the Emperor's not perfect. He's keeping humanity from perfection. That convinces him, and he sends Fulgrim to go corrupt Ferris. Well, that fails because trying to convince Ferris is trying to get a brick to jump. It's not going to happen. It's not. After a brief battle, Istvan happens. We all know what happens on there.
Everybody dies.
Everybody dies. Fulgrim kills his own boys. The Traitor Legions kill their own boys. And then we have Istvan 5. Or was it Istvan? No, it's Istvan 5. It was 3, then 5. Where Fulgrim slays his brother Ferris.
See, I didn't know Ferris is dead in the 40K.
See, during the battle, it's insane. They're kind of talking at each other. Ferris is having none of it. Fulgrim is kind of just playing with him a bit, but still trying to convince him that he's not all evil. And then finally, that noise in his head just has too much, and he says, shut up, and swings his arm with his sword in his hand, not fully controlling it, and off comes the head of Ferris Manus.
Wow.
And all of the Iron Hands get knocked unconscious because of the sonic boom from his death. And it is just a trail of excess from that day on. He just has to make himself feel better. Eventually, he gets to the Siege of Terra, where he's just a depresso espresso, leaning into all the terrible things, along with his legion. getting worse and worse and worse. They went from a parade marching, beautiful, shining soldiers to a bunch of filigree, pompous, self-absorbed jerks who don't even walk in time with each other, do their own thing, play random sounds that just blow your eardrums out. Nothing is organized. Everything's excessive. It's cranked to 11. Drugs, alcohol, noise, everything.
Getting their best Drukhari on.
Exactly. They go to the Siege of Terra. They don't even join the fight. They go to destroy the civilians. Their noise marines that they had recently made start blowing people away with sonic booms from their microphones grills and their weapons and their mouths, and start snorting the lines of dust that they make from the people with the sounds of the apocalypse. And then
that is pretty heavy metal.
It is pretty heavy metal. It is pretty metal.
So we're getting toward the end here.
Yeah.
So Fulgrim has a model.
Yes.
But it's a Horus Heresy model.
Two Horus Heresy models, actually.
Okay.
Pre-fall, post-fall.
Right. So in case you guys haven't seen it, the latest Fulgrim model, he's a snake monster.
Yep. He is a demon Primarch of Slaanesh.
Right. How?
Well, after everything happened, on his way to the Siege of Terra, actually, I was going to mention this, but I guess I skipped a bit ahead. I'm sorry, guys. Before the Siege of Terra, him and Perturabo of the Iron Warriors go to find one secret weapon, something that the Eldar have hidden that could help them win the battle on the Siege of Terra. It was then that Perturabo finds out that Fulgrim was lying to him, and that this Angel Exterminatus was actually Fulgrim himself, there to sacrifice his brother Perturabo and ascend to the ranks of a demon Primarch.
Really? So the Slaanesh wanted him to sacrifice one of his brothers.
Exactly.
And then it's like, and then I'll make you perfect.
To be fair, everybody hated Perturabo, but yeah.
Also, I think that's interesting that, so the Iron
Warriors.
Were the Imperial, no, not the Imperial Fist, the Iron Hands guy that he had been friends with.
They
Fulgrim.
hate the Imperial Fist.
Right. But he was best friends with Fulgrim.
Yep.
Who's sort of a siegecraft kind of guy.
Ferrus Manus of the Iron Hands.
Ferrus. Right. Ferrus.
There you go.
He was friends with Ferrus.
Yep.
And then fell out with Ferrus.
Yep.
Killed Ferrus.
Yep.
And then he goes and finds Perturabo, who's like the same guy.
Almost, but a little bit more vindictive.
Sure. But I just think that's interesting that he loves these siegecrafty kind of guys.
Yeah, he does. He kind of does. Well, he didn't really care for Perturabo. Perturabo actually smashed his head into his Warlord Titan mini.
Nice.
Now,
Perturabo's not dead, right?
No, he is not. Not
so,
currently, no.
Yeah, so explain how we get there. He goes to sacrifice Perturabo. Perturabo says, "No, sir."
Mm-hmm. He manages to kill a bunch of loyalist space marines that just pop up out of nowhere. Perturabo beats the brakes off of him, and in his dying death throes, Fulgrim ascends to demonhood because he's like, Slaanesh, save me. And then, he grows snake tail, bat wings, and more arms. Yep.
Like you do.
Yeah, like you do when you're a Slaaneshi follower. Much like the Laern, if you think about it.
Yeah.
They were reptilian.
Were they?
Yeah, they were snake people.
Oh,
much.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he had seen the entire thing at work. That's
Came
interesting.
Full circle.
That's interesting that Slaanesh is like, good enough.
So he becomes a demon prince, and now after the Siege of Terra, he went to the warp. He rules over his own pleasure world, teaching his emperor's children and any who are willing to show up the ways of excess and the path of the Dark Prince of Excess.
That's so metal, man.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of stuff happened with Fulgrim. I glossed over quite a bit because he is man, he had a lot happen. I mean, if we ever do the Ferrus pod, I've told half the story of Ferrus. But Fulgrim was the one who actually wounded Bobby G. The one who put him in the 10,000 years coma.
Oh, right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, he was doing his thing, attacking different planets. Bobby G attacks him on his own home ship. And then, snick, he slices that throat with a poison blade.
Wild.
Now, some people used to speculate that because that demon was in there, the demon possessing him eventually was what made him, fall to chaos. But we do have new lore that is not the case. He eventually runs into Lucius the Eternal and a few other of his boys who say there's a demon possessing dad. And there's a painting over here that looks like our dad screaming. What's going on there? So then they proceed to grab Fulgrim, hold him down, and torture him for days trying to get the demon out. It was then that they find out that the demon was actually... It was Fulgrim in the painting, but the demon eventually swapped. Fulgrim overpowered him, swapped him out, and then let his own boys, his own sons, torture the crap out of him for days on end, just so he could feel the pain for fun.
Whoa.
Exactly.
Wild.
Yeah, so that's new lore, but Fulgrim falling was apparently not just his demon, it was his own personal demons.
So I think that's another good lore pod that we could do on some of these Emperor's Children characters.
There's a lot
because there's a few. There's Lucius. What the heck is he about?
Exactly.
There's who were we just talking about?
Got Saul Tarvis, Lucius the Eternal.
There's Fabius Bile. He's a big player in this entire Emperor's Children thing.
Yeah.
And just how we ended up on this sort of like there's this
Rylanor.
There's this genetic
rights.
There's this like genetics perfection sort of Wrath of Khan thing going on with the Emperor's Children.
Yeah, they say we're better, we have to be better. I mean, what sucks to me is that Fulgrim used to be such a nice dude. Like at one point, the Emperor's Children are walking parade through a city. They see all the civilians out in front. They're like wearing their rags and stuff, and they're like, these pitiful specimens. I don't even know why we care for them. And Fabius Bile's like, hey, shut up. Dad's going to hear you. We got to be good. We got to be good guys. And Fulgrim's like, hey, I heard you guys. And look, while they do look like this, we have to uplift them, show them the better way. We have to be the example and help them as best that we can. The strong have to protect the weak and show them the path of perfection. And, he went from that to being a giant hedonistic snake. So I actually have a passage here that I wanted to read that I'm probably too late now. The Third Legion, once lauded quest for excellence and perfection, had been corrupted into a desire to achieve perfect hedonism and constant self-absorbed sensual excess. It's a lot of big words.
Sounds like fun, though.
I mean, when you love to party, you party hard.
Well, that is a lore pod. Thank you, Casey, for teaching us about Fulgrim and how he became a vicious snake monster. And so, here's a question. I guess he's going to come out before too long. He still exists in 40K, so we should either get a new model for 40K or the one we've got. We need some rules, folks.
We do. They need a codex.
Come on now. Yeah, because don't get me started on this little supplement they just did, which is nothing. It has no detachment rule. It's like, come on, guys. What are we doing?
Exactly.
They're just like, call it Emperor's Children. It's like we were already doing that.
It's sad, really.
Yeah, somebody needs to go back to the drawing board. We need a Emperor's Children code detachment and some rules for another Primarch, because unlike quite a few, I find there's a lot of people that don't like the Primarchs in the game on the battlefield. I am the opposite. I want to see them all.
See, every last one. And finally, it is time for our Space Marine segment in which we end the video. Did you know, Shane?
Probably not.
That albinism actually runs in the Emperor's Children.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, silver hair, white skin, and pink eyes.
We'll see you next week.
Stay fanatical, folks.